got a bunch of guests today. Welcome. And typically we have someone we interview, but once, twice a month, we got to go through our numbers. We got to go through what's happened. We just had family reunion, digesting a lot of material.
But Jeffrey, like 22 people went to family reunion. We already went through the vision speech. Why would we do this
well,
today?
we don't need to talk about that. We're good. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, everyone knows
No, I think I learn when I do things multiple times. And also, we're digesting this differently. And how much has changed since we were sitting with 15,000 of our friends last week? I think a lot.
Yeah.
I think it feels like a lot's changed. The news was working all weekend.
And
so let's talk
And what we've
about it.
also done is we're adding a lot of local sides, right? And so sometimes we act like we're a full unicorn, which is true sometimes, right? New Orleans is not like the rest of the market. We were a buyer's market whenever else was a seller's market, right? And so we'll compare and contrast what we saw on the stage versus what's local. So here are the 6 things that drive real estate. And we're going to fly through some of this today. And so we're doing our best. We have like 142 slides, right? So
yeah.
No pressure. Okay.
And
so
we're going to try to give you some new things too.
Home sales, slight upclimb projection for 2026. It's been flat the last couple of years, right? We feel that.
Right. You feel a little bit better about last year? There was a little bit better. How did that work for our area?
And so here, let me put this big for everybody online.
Come on in. Grab any seat you want.
And so when we look at this, the red today is going to be the entire MLS, and then the blue is going to be Orleans Parish. And so entire MLS has done better in the last year, appreciation of 1.8%, or our number of sales have been that, not appreciation, sorry. And then basically flat in Orleans.
There you go.
Yep. And
virtually the same.
Yeah. So this is your seasonality slide, right? And so most of the country, when are they busy? The summer and December, usually whenever kids are out of school. How does that look here?
Very similar.
Similar except for December, right? December looks a little bit different. Our peak of our seasonality is June. Where we really start getting excited is where you are today, right? Right? So March through June is our selling season, right?
I went on Facebook to look at something, which I hate going on Facebook.
I love Facebook.
And it showed me...
It's still the number one place people look to buy or sell a home.
A few years ago, we were doing pre-Mardi Gras luncheons. It showed me a luncheon picture from before Mardi Gras a couple years ago. And I was thinking, isn't this nice? Mardi Gras is done. Family reunion's done. Let's get to friggin' work. Let's go.
Okay, and so this is the appreciation slide, right? So what do we look for in appreciation?
4%. Real estate is, what do we say in investment books? Or they say 4% is what you get every year. Long term, that means every 18 years, the value of real estate is doubling.
And why is like a 4% appreciation as good as buying stocks at, say, 10 to 12%?
Because you only need a certain amount down. If it's FHA, maybe 3%, or even
you're
0%.
You're leveraging that debt, right? And so if it's 4 times, if you're putting 20%
to double
down,
$1,000,
you get 4 times as much. So the 4 times 4 is 16% on average, right?
To double $1,000 in the stock market, you need to put $1,000 in.
Okay, but nationally, if you look at this trend, the last number of years, because of COVID, it's been wonky, right? We went up in our market like 30%, and then it went like this, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we put the trend line in here. Ever since 1990, 7.4%.
And a respiratory virus did not make us appreciate more. It was our reaction to reinflate the economy.
Yep.
To be clear.
Yep. And so this is locally, we would say really since COVID, things have appreciated barely flat, right? We've not really seen negative numbers out of medium sales price. They've been flat since 2022.
Great. Oh.
This
okay.
is, annual appreciation if you did a quarterly.
So you just broke it up. Okay.
This is world events actually do affect home prices, right?
Great things to go back to. Keep going.
All right. I think this is one that matters most to you all because total market volume equates to
GCI.
GCI, right?
We don't get paid on
how
units.
you get paid. So, it's one thing to cut your clients, this is what your median sales price is and whether it's appreciation. What agents tend to care about is how much money they're going to bring in. And so this was the 3rd best year in real estate, right, based on volume. And guess what? We've shedded a lot of agents in the last 2 years, right?
And we're forecasting even more.
Lower numbers than that. And so locally, what is our total market volume? We had this insane spike during COVID, right? And we saw that, we felt that, and we continue to see a slight increase in the last couple of years.
Yep.
All right, inventory. We wish it was 4.2 months.
Yeah, so we're closer to that. We're, locally we're at the dotted line, right? Or just above.
Yeah, and so here's our months of inventory. So entire MLS, you're sitting right there, right about 6 months, and then Orleans, you're jumping up to about 9 months.
You know what I love? If we take Orleans and you pull out multifamily, you actually come right back down to the 6.
Yeah, but
multifamily is actually dragging down all the stats right now.
But if you jump back this here,
you can leave condos in. It's multifamily that is absolutely the laggard.
The reminder is here is when you were all complaining you couldn't find a house, right? And it was
buyers couldn't find a house.
Right, buyers couldn't find a house. It was difficult. I mean, there was some goodness to it. Here, we're still in that kind of balanced. Yeah. We're kind of returning to that balanced market after we've seen this little bit of that decline in inventory.
The buyers are complaining about something else today. What they're complaining about is that they don't feel confident. And we'll get to that in a minute. Mortgage rates. Look, I can't stand the headline that we're finally below 6. We've been below 6. We've been giving you all those stats. We're closer to 5.5. We've got competitive lenders that are doing great work. So 5.5, game on, everybody. No more excuses on interest rates. People are messing up. Keep going. Show the slide.
Yep. So this is the forecast slide, right, from the Federal Reserve, and so we're still projected to see some decline in interest rates, which is great news for you all. Yeah. It could be up to 0.5.
They're saying two rate reductions this year. I unfortunately think this has gotten so political. I wouldn't count on this. And furthermore, we're going to show you another slide. We're going to show you another slide that kind of shows you it's almost baked in already.
No, this is this year, right? So we're actually right over here is where we started the year.
It's misleading.
Yeah.
The way it's dated, but yes.
Yeah.
December to July.
It's the only chart I could get at 11
So
p.m.
blue is what actually happened, and gray is forecasted. And keep in mind, the federal government does not put out the forecast. Banks and other policy groups put that out.
Okay, so this here is the interesting one of like, oh, everyone's stuck in their interest rate, right? And so over here is that less than 5%, and you have half the people. Which is real. However, I would point out in our market, this is Orleans and New Orleans, or New Orleans Metro and Orleans, we actually have a lot more full equity cash positions in real estate than almost anyone else.
And I would curb your enthusiasm on that. I don't think that's cash, okay? Because CoreLogic is pulling Cotality, they've changed their name again. Cotality, who makes Matrix, who's actually an economic, their real company is producing economic data and selling it. Cotality is pulling the data that we're giving off the MLS, and if we say it was a cash deal, well, we know that cash deals they're not writing a full check at the closing table. They're doing what? A lot of times they're drawing on lines of credit they have. They're just not making the offer contingent on financing. So just remember that. The headlines miss this. It really bothers me. So I would knock that down a bit, but think of it as a trend, though, that we do a lot of cash deals in Orleans.
Yep. So this is affordability, which is, there was a great comment made at Family Reunion was Canada actually includes in their affordability stats what? Insurance. Wow. Would that make a huge difference for us? That would give us a lot more truth to it. And so we almost artificially have to equate what does the insurance factor have to do to it. I don't know if I have the slides here. Later I have a slide that shows some trend of insurance.
It's very in vogue.
So this is how much of your income are you spending on shelter, right? Principal and interest.
Yeah, the rule of thumb throughout history when you talk to a banker is about a third of your income goes to housing.
Yep.
Right?
Okay. All right.
That's how Hanno bases their thing.
That is the rule. That is a rule of thumb. It's kind of become a truism, right?
Okay, so That's real estate. What drives real estate? And now I kind of zoom out a bit and talk about just the U.S. economy in general. Here are the 10 things that affect the U.S. economy. The first one is GDP.
Not bad for a highly developed nation.
Right, and so that's in that target, right, which is that kind of 2.5 target. We don't want to look to go beneath that. So when you think about all the shifting trade policies and everything of this last year, to be able to pull out at 2.2, and which is a healthy range, is nice. Next one, unemployment. Unemployment. When you think about like the Federal Reserve and
they have two mandates.
The two mandates.
Stable employment maintaining employment below 2% and price stability. So they really can't lower interest rates when they don't have big drawdowns in unemployment or crazy price changes due to inflation or deflation.
Yep, and so a tiny uptick here. Here's maybe a better one showing like whenever
4%,
there were
not 2%. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
When we're seeing spikes of unemployment. These are the times that you've really felt it and the economy has felt it, right? And so I think we've talked a lot in the past of like inflation, one number to keep, which we'll see here in a second, has calmed, but two, as long as that unemployment stays around 4% and we're not seeing these spikes, we're in good shape. As soon as we start seeing...
There's no impetus to lower rates,
right,
despite jawboning from the executive branch.
Yep.
Okay. We've tracked this graph for a long time. We started pulling this graph out during COVID. Remember Antonio, our banker at the JP Morgan Private Bank, would show us this chart when all of a sudden labor had the power versus the job openings, and that's when you talk to a friend, they're like, oh, I just switched jobs and made $20,000 more a year, and then I switched jobs again and made another 20 more. Well, that power is not there anymore. We've seen that line come back to the mean and then go below.
Yeah, and so where it feels okay for both the employer and the employee is when these lines kind of meet, right?
Right.
There's leverage on
Balance.
both sides of it. You can't completely rip me off. I can't completely rip you off in that salary. It's kind of hard still to hire, but you can hire. Right. And so I think there's some goodness in these lines staying the same versus where we just came from, which was a harder place to hire.
And Cody, like even today, they were talking about more people are just happier in their jobs, and they're staying in their jobs much longer and not changing jobs.
Yeah, and that's smart. If you're not positive, there's 5 jobs waiting for you.
So
because the average job search is what, 6 months?
Jeffrey, this is one of the most concerning slides to me, and it's job growth. And when we've been in places that we've added, 7 million that was post-COVID. We put people back to work, and so that doesn't really count. But like, if on some sort of normal basis, we're adding about 2 million jobs per year, and last year we only added 181,000 jobs per year, like what effect does that have?
The enemy of the stock market, of home buyers, of our psyches is uncertainty, right? The more uncertainty that we have, the less likely we are to do something big or make and so for a business, that's make an investment, buy a new machine, open a new location, extend your hours, that sort of thing, something that's going to grow revenue or cut expenses. Then home buyers is the same way. If they're not feeling a robust economy, they're less likely to make a big financial decision. It's just a kind of the way things are.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of dis-ease out there in the market today, and this is a great example of it. I had never seen this chart. When they showed me this, I was like looking at Cody, and it was like a jaw-drop moment.
Yeah, so this really breaks down like where that 181,000 went versus our 10-year average. And so we saw incredible growth in the healthcare sector, which for Orleans is great and leisure and hospitality. Right. So the fact our 2 biggest industries in New Orleans are the 2 biggest in the country, is wonderful.
But right? Normally, over a 10-year average, the healthcare industry would have had 482,000 jobs last year. Actually, they did 781,000. Yep. Okay, which go back a slide. Is that because of the baby boomers? Go back a slide. We only gained 181,000 jobs in the whole economy. So Healthcare was it, everybody, because we made a nice little, we made a so-so jump in leisure, not as much as normally. We'd normally do 190, we did 119. Other financial services, way less. Look at that, 36,000 versus an average of 111,000. That could be AI showing up, maybe, who knows. Mine and logging, they're usually shedding 20,000 jobs a year, and they added almost the same. Construction, lost 1,000 versus a gain typically.
Likely because of tariffs, right? Uncertainty, people aren't building.
Tariffs, immigration, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Rising prices. But look at professional business services. Look at the people that got doged. And then trade and transportation, I would guess that's totally tariff-based.
Yeah, and so when you read that, it's a full swing. So like the government, which also matters to New Orleans.
A lot, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's
and
a
so
major
you're swinging
employer.
from the growth of 127 to 186, and so, the net is, 3 something, right?
And I wouldn't give all the credit to Doge on the government thing. I would say that if you're at retirement age, like people on government or employed by the government, they have this thing called the drop when they can suddenly retire and collect a pension. Remember, the deal for working for the government is you're going to take a lower salary for your entire career, but after you've done about 27 years to 30 years, you can make your 90% of your highest salary for the rest of your life, if you've stuck it out there, okay? Which is, but you took less than the market was willing to pay you. You could have gone to a consultant and you went to where you went there. Point being, if you're at the drop, you're just going to say peace. Like I don't want to deal with this. I don't want another government shutdown. I don't want all these things. It's easier to just leave. So there's a combination of things.
Yeah, which sucks if you're in government.
You're in the
I
military.
like those senior people.
You're in the military.
Yeah.
Your whole unit's being shaken up right now, as the Navy is and all armed forces are.
Yep.
You've got a decision you get to make.
Yeah, so when I was in Chicago last week, my entire time was talking about bringing down our forces and losing 300 officer intel billets, 1,200 or whatever.
Back up.
Yeah.
You were in Chicago. You left Family Reunion.
Yep. Flew to Chicago.
You commanded your unit in the Navy Reserves. You're actively in the reserves.
Yep.
And y'all had your huge Navy confab.
Yeah,
Okay.
and nothing approved, but it's writing on the wall, let's do some planning around this. And so you can imagine my mind screw going from, let's talk about drawing down forces. I arrived back Friday night, and then Saturday morning, I'm glued to the screen about World War III, right? So, great. Good times.
Back it up.
Oh, we'll get there.
We only have half the countries in the world involved. It's not a full world war yet. Okay. Wealth and income. Look, compound interest is real. The rich are getting richer. I don't think we're breaking any news there.
Yep. Here's your inflation side. Again, this is super, 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 super important to understand inflation, and probably the best news of last year.
The price stability is a huge thing.
Yep.
I get really upset when people are saying prices are coming down. Maybe on eggs they came down. But when prices are still rising 2% annually, that means they've slowed the rate of increase. They haven't lowered prices.
Yeah.
I've not seen a grocery bill go down yet.
Yeah.
They say once they go up, they do not come down.
Whenever I'm
right.
looking at the checkout at Whole Foods, the only reason it went down is because I forgot to go buy meat. And I need meat. I can't live on all veg.
Yeah,
Love veggies, but
this is a 2% increase on where it was a year ago, or a quarter ago even. And so what you would hope and what you're looking for is that your earnings, wages, family, household income keeps up with inflation.
tracks with inflation.
Now, when
Has that happened statistically? No. Thus the problem in our society.
Yeah. But 2% is really what you want. You don't, as we would love to see egg prices to be really cheap again, but you would not want to see inflation drop beneath this. Negative inflation is the worst thing that could happen to us.
Okay. So remember we said two things this Fed does? There's tons of people, I love hearing people talk about the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. We talk about the Fed a lot. If you're in Keller Williams New Orleans, you know. You probably know more than the average bear here. What's interesting is Jerome Powell, right? Jay Powell, my buddy, he's going to get off of being what? The chair. But his term is not over of sitting on the Board of Governors. Okay? So that would be like, I don't know. I think he's going to have an outsized voice when he is no longer chair. That's why they're trying to go after him criminally, so that they can remove him from the Federal Board of Governors and no longer have a voice. This is going to be really interesting.
My take is the chair is one thing, but you actually have a whole board that makes the decisions on it, right? And so we're seeing some of
But this
that
is
play
a
out.
90-something% of the time, people vote with the chair. The chair speaks, and they go along with it because they want this. There's this thing about
Stability.
the group
Yeah.
moving together and not being divided. They don't like, how the Supreme Court makes decisions right down party lines. That's not how the Fed has behaved traditionally. And I think that's a reason why we have such great, deep capital markets.
Yep. Okay, this one just shows mortgage rates operate with the Fed policy, and so when they announce a drop, you see it even before it occurs, right? We know
The
that
10 years was driving 30-year
Yeah.
treasuries. The 10-year treasury is driving the 30-year mortgage, not the Fed funds rate.
Yep.
We got a better. Skip that one. I like the next slide better. We got to see him at a Keller Williams event a few years ago. Logan, he's got a great podcast on Housing Wire that I catch a couple times a week. So what he did was he took the difference between the 10-year treasury and the 30-year mortgage. Okay, that's called the spread. So, what's the spread been like? Well, his point is that our spread right now is below 2%. And if we were at traditional levels, like as if they were in 2023, if the mortgage spread was that much, our actual mortgage rate would be 7.17% today, not 5.5%.
So let's just talk
So
about
that's
this.
the market forces creating competition, bidding down those 30-year treasury, those 30-year mortgage bonds.
Yeah, so if interest rates today are 5.5%, what is the Fed rate? Right? It's 2%. It's 2%.
Okay.
In the last number of years, it's 2.5% difference. That's it. 2.5 is kind of the normal thing. The fact the spread is larger is strange.
Smaller. Decrease.
Smaller, sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Mortgage
Yes.
rates are also higher. So it's really more interesting for people to go park their money in mortgage bonds.
Yep.
That's the correlation that I think also you've got to look at.
Yep.
We can get real nerdy on that. This is the bad one. This is, how do we dumb it down? What I'm trying to tell you is I'll dumb it down. Lowering the Fed funds rate is not, you're not going to see a big change in mortgage prices.
You said they were 5.5%. Did that go down? 5.5%?
Heck yeah. If
Average is 5.9. You can get 5.5
we're going to show you the
with a
national
lot of
average.
lenders.
Absolutely.
You were saying it's a differential between
The spread between the 10-year treasury, which is what mortgages are based off of, okay, typically,
2% difference.
and the 30-year mortgage rate.
2%.
Well, under 2. Under 2. And it's usually around 2.5.
We need to get the news out.
I'm trying to tell you the message to your client is interest rates are great. Doubtful we get these 2 rate reductions, and even if we did, they're probably just going to get absorbed right in, and we're going to see a minor reduction. Nothing to write home about. Nothing worth waiting. And I have been taking calls since we got back from family reunion. Properties are going under contract like crazy that have sat for 2 years, or some not as long, but one last night for 2 years. And people are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars by getting in these prices, these deals.
Yep.
Multifamily is that's like another day. Okay.
And so this one is not just general consumer sentiment, but it's like, is this a good time to buy a home? And in the largest sense, this is probably the most troubling of all the sides we have, because it is at 17%, which is where it kind of bottom out.
Less than 1 in 5 people think it's a good time to buy a home. And we are seeing the best deals on the market that we've seen in how long? A long time. Some of your entire careers, we haven't seen prices this good.
The only thing I would offer to you is, like, when you have these bottoms, you have spikes. Like every one of those bottoms, you have a quick spike out of it.
Yeah, look,
This
look
is-
historically. This is a great thing to
Sentiment
share.
is also all I can offer you in the gut moment of like, I think we're also going to jump right back out of this.
Yeah.
I see a way out of this with insurance and interest rates and
This is social media stuff. This is for your listing packet. This is for your buyer packet.
yeah.
And when I see things like that and I see a bottom like that, go back to show how low it is. Look at that bottom that's in. That really, 70%. Yes, that's a great point. Like we're at like Vietnam, we're at like Vietnam War lows here. Okay. 81 oil crisis, right? Like terrible times. Let's click. So I remember our old friend Warren. He has a great quote.
May you rest in peace. I know. I'm kidding.
Charlie died, not Warren.
I'm kidding. He just stepped down. He's dead to me now.
Take it easy there. All right, let's go to the. I can't take that. That's a lot.
But he's not moving and shaking.
All right,
anyway.
let's focus on the important part. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Next. Don't need to say any more. Explains it. All right, economic risks. Look, this is like we're not even going to go into this, y'all. But these are the 5 big ones. Let's talk some geopolitics. How about that? Huh?
Yeah, let's just jump to geopolitics.
I mean, screw AI replacing everyone's jobs and labor market weakness potentially. Whatever. Let's move on. Yeah, let's have a war. That's always good when you're. Never mind.
Okay. All right. So I'll try to be quick, but not like overly simplify this, right? And so I think there's a number of things that are in people's minds as we woke up Saturday morning, and it is if a year ago we did strikes into Iran's nuclear capabilities and we said they're decimated, well, why today would we need to do it, right? And the administration has had a number of explanations for it. I judge it was a moment of opportunity, right? And so what we haven't seen is Russia jump in and be the ally to Iran that they have traditionally, right? Which is incredible news because Russia actually has the military capability traditionally that would rival us plus Iran, right? Like if you put Iran plus Russia together and then the U.S., that's a real war, right? Iran by itself, not so much. And so what we're looking for is, will Russia start intervening or will China start intervening, right?
Because Russia's 4 years into a war with Ukraine. That was supposed to take 4 days, right?
Always.
So Russia's 4 years
wars
into
are
a
always
war.
going to take 4 days.
Their economy's feeling it. They've spent a lot of money they really don't have.
Yep.
Putin's lucky he hasn't been thrown out of a window by an oligarch, is
Yep.
my thing. So maybe the time. Plus, I mean, this is really incredible that Mossad was watching traffic cameras of the
Like how to do the strike.
of like where the leader of Iran was and like followed him through the streets to the meeting on Saturday morning, and that's when we launched the
Yeah,
airstrike.
when all the black SUVs pull up, that's probably where we should strike. So it's a good intel secret. Iran is losing tens of thousands of humans per month in the Ukrainian war, and also, the number of UAVs. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like in the tens of thousands also per month that they're launching. The amount of munitions.
Russia's
Correct.
the biggest buyer of those
Yeah.
drones as well, right?
And so that's substantial. And so I think this is a moment in which we saw some uprising in Iran by the people, right, which is usually how nations tend to fail. And so we saw that, plus we didn't feel like some of the traditional allies would move in, and so this gave us an opportunity. And you could argue a lot of other things. What's that?
We don't know yet.
We're not here. We're not there yet.
This
We're
is chapter 1.
We're on day 5. So,
And the Israelis were ready. They've been asking us to do this for a while.
Are they Chinese made? I just have to ask.
which drones? Ours?
The ones
No.
out of Iran.
Iran is a major
so-
cheap drone producer.
Catch this. Our one-way drones are from Iran. We gathered them, we went and made them better, and we're launching them against them. We were behind this fight, drone warfare, back 5 years ago. We were way behind the curve, and so we have We have spent tons of time and resources. Even this administration has given a lot of autonomy to like local bases to figure out the problem, right? Which arguably we haven't done because Fifth Fleet is destroyed. But so the second point is air power alone is unlikely to force regime change. Like it's never happened before, and so like, do I wish it will and can and it's that easy? I hope so.
So the Balkans was the only time we were going to be successful at that, and every time else it's boots on the ground and
boots on the ground, or we give up and just let them continue to have civil war for a decade. Now, what's also
that sounds like us, actually.
What's also interesting, right? When you think about Syria, that went into civil war and regime change, Syrians had arms, right? And so their civil war was like truly like the anti-government was fighting with weapons. Iranians don't have that, and so how that plays out, how people without that is going to rise up is interesting. So, okay, third point, Iran has...
That was only two?
Yeah, it was only two, I know. So people keep asking, like, can they strike us, right? Can Iran strike us? And so their ballistic missile capabilities, like medium range, and so that's where Israel gets it, right? But it doesn't reach too much further in Israel, or it doesn't make it into Western Europe. The concern is... you have two military forces there, one traditional military, and then you have the IRGC, which is built for the survival of the regime, right? And underneath them, they have, which is the Quds Force, which is kind of like your special forces. We would say they're like a terrorist group, and they've supported the Houthis. They've also attacked us in the past, and this is some of our reason to go to war was because of actions they've done. We call this asymmetric, right? And so that is not your traditional, we're going to launch something at you, but we're going to maybe equip somebody in Austin to go do a terrorist activity, or what's more likely to come is cyber attacks, potential cyber attacks on infrastructure. That would probably be their likely capability to reach into and disrupt the U.S.
I think about the little things. Think about how many of us have these stupid thermostats, smart thermostats.
Yeah.
How easy would it be to just kill all of our air conditioning in August? I mean, we will be flying Chinese flags in minutes if you take away our air conditioning in August. And when Cody says asymmetric, you almost have to go that ridiculous because that's literally what the smart war people are thinking about and worried about. And cyber.
It's one reason, even like in business, we'll keep our main things that we get to our bank accounts on one network, and then all of our smart devices, which tend to be your Chinese, shitty, cheap, whatever, on a whole nother network, and so they're not looking at each other and playing with each other. But nerd talk. All right, stockpiles matter. President Trump put out yesterday. We have infinite number. We're great. He's saying that because it's been questioned, right? And then also the chairman of Joint Staff also said, we have some concerns here. We gave a lot of ammunition to Ukraine, right? And so our stockpiles weren't at its highest point. Can we keep it up? Can we do industrial base? Sure. Also matters in Iran. I only have 2,000 missiles. At some point that goes out. Our rate of this, if you've seen it in the news, unlike 2023, we're twice the volume, right? And so something in the first 48 hours, U.S. launched over 1,000 strikes. And you're talking about off of ships mostly and stuff. And so that's a lot.
Are those big programs, are they on autopilot? Some guy sitting in Jersey flying them up there.
Well, I mean, for us, it's a combination of all the things, right? And so we have two aircraft carriers, one working 12 hours, the other working 12 hours, and that way we can keep 24 hours ops. That's why we have two at a given time. So
yes and yes is the combination. I mean, look,
Yeah.
when you hear laser guided, when you hear satellite GPS guided, when you hear all these things, they're
we kind of already talked about regime survival. This is what it depends on. And I don't know about the other factors that we keep saying out loud. Information operations is kind of like the propaganda, what we say out loud in the media. I've already seen, and I expect that both sides are going to have extraordinary information ops, right? And so if you're seeing what the Iranians are putting out, they've just like sink a carrier. They've like destroyed the fleet. They've like, they've done all these insanely great things, and there's moments I'm like, I need to go check on like so-and-so to make sure that they're still there, and they're there, right? And so we know that's a lie. I think, the United States will do, aspect of that as well, right? We'll exaggerate. We'll also say, we've taken on less casualties than we actually have, and it will be some time until we get some
probably
truth.
underreporting base hits right now, some other things. I mean, you've got some personal experience here. You were deployed in Bahrain. No. Tell them what you told me about all the places you lived when you were over there.
Yeah, so, I mean, the first building that was struck in Bahrain was the building I worked out of, right? And so, like, literally my building. And then, like I joked, it's like...
Bahrain's not in Iran, just to remind everyone.
Yeah, it's close. And then the place we'd go to brunch and, like, we would go, drink ourselves. Also, like, Crown Plaza was destroyed. My buddy that's stationed over there... he's on my Find My Friends. I was like looking to see if he was still there. He was in Canada. I wrote him. I was like, I'm glad you're in Canada. And he's like heading to Tampa, which is the headquarters of Fifth Fleet, CENTCOM. Yeah. And then my time in the United Arab Emirates, every base I've been on had been bombed, right? Like, and so for me, I mean, there was like some serious reality. I mean, like, we evacuated some of those forces. I can't imagine all of them. I can't imagine that we were only at 6 casualties at this moment, but I think this is all a part of the information operations.
I think it's a great thing to remember. Like, we hang our hats so easily on one news story or one thing, especially when we go to comment on social media. And I would just urge you to remember that, like, every piece of information that's let out, somebody has a reason they're saying it. And it's really hard to cut through truth. And let's give truth a chance to emerge.
And so, like
before we, as people that don't have I have no primary sources on this, right? Cody's the closest thing I got,
and I'm just reading.
And
I'm on Instagram, right. And there's.
And I know when he's not telling us something because when he goes in like a skiff, and we can't even call him.
My algorithm is just showing me everything right now.
Okay,
it's amazing.
So, the only thing I would like to add to that is that, and it was something I heard yesterday and I thought it was very nice, is that we're at war and that's the way it is, but we just need to remember and support and pray for all of our troops and all of our Americans and individuals who are over there working on our safety here also.
Yeah, 100%. So to kind of bring this in, like, where does this go? Why do we care? I will be shocked if this is a quick campaign, right? I think there's a desire for it to be. I don't think that's like administration's like. I don't think there's a hidden plan that we're going to be in this forever. I think there's a strong desire that it's going to be quick. It just
rarely works out that way.
It rarely works
Especially
out
in the Middle East.
that way to have any sort of meaningful change. But we can also just destroy every military piece of equipment they have and leave them themselves, I guess.
Okay. On a brighter note, let's talk tariffs. Love some of the hard right turns we're going to make here. Okay. Gary's been putting this slide up, and he speaks very apolitically, and this isn't to go political at all. There's been commentary in the media. There was commentary at the State of the Union. Potentially, the ability to get rid of the income tax and replace it with tariffs. This slide is to show you how impossible that probably is. Okay, so you can see the gold, or what do we call it, marigold?
I mean, they did it.
What color is that?
They did it in the 1800s.
Yeah, they did in the 1800s. But that is what tariff, customs duties, same thing, income to the government used to be. And then look at by 1946, look where it goes down to. Okay? Now, there is that nice little bump up there, and it probably is like a doubling of the tariff rate income for the government. But let's remind ourselves that the green part is income tax. So the 15% tax that we're talking about, which I think our net effective rate of tariffs before the Supreme Court decision was about 10%. So now it's going to go to 15%.
I think it's like 2%, yeah.
So we got a 15%
Well, that's the new executive order to comply with the Supreme Court. That's barely going to move the needle here. So,
While the moaning, I mean, this is so small, it's just minute in the bucket, to be honest, what you're showing me at least.
you can draw your conclusions of why. I think that it's something to talk about, and
I'll give you this answer, right? And so when you think about influence of other countries, we do diplomatic, information, military, economic, right? Those are your levers to pull, right? And we've seen this administration pull those in like really hard ways, right? And so this would be your economic lever to pull. Can I charge people more tariffs, right? And can I charge them 80% tariffs, versus whatever. This next slide, I think, is what's the most telling to it, and this is your effective interest rate, or not interest rate, effective tariff rate. So if on average, we're talking about 2.7%, and what we've seen is this jump, and now we've seen a little bit of a decline, right? And we expect that to probably half with the Supreme Court decision. Yeah. And so we're talking about 5% effective tariff rate. And so, again, just some level setting. When we're yelling 60% tariff rates out in the world, really what we're talking about still is fairly low.
Small to U.S. government income.
Yeah.
Large to the cost of goods.
Well, okay. 5%, yeah.
Y'all, we're going to, you know this. Let's hit some New Orleans data here. New listings. We don't have huge inventories. We can use a lot more. Get to work.
What's that number, about 1,100?
No, it's like 1,600.
So this is all of MLS. This is really trying to show you.
David, we'll help you that
trends.
after. We'll help you with that exact number after. We've got to go. Distressed sales, nothing to talk about. Underwater homes, nothing to talk about. Credit conditions are...
So I like the credit conditions real quick because sometimes I get that. Like consumer debt is so damn high. This is the risk to everything.
Yeah.
And here we don't see that.
But people aren't underwater. People aren't defaulting in general. New home starts, we need more. Student loan debt, absolutely a big problem. Keeps rising. Insurance nationally coming down. Here we've seen it come down.
I mean, that's a huge drop, though, right? If we saw 11% down to 6%, I mean, that still doesn't make us feel warm and fuzzy. And the next
great slide for your presentation, though.
Yeah, and so this one, because sometimes everyone's like, we live on this island and we're the only one with high insurance. I would just tell you, no, we're not, right? This is a couple years old, but it still is true.
What's wrong in Oklahoma?
Tornadoes. Yeah,
yep.
I mean, natural stuff. So this was in NOLA.com this past fall, I think, and this just shows the reinsurance drop, which is really what affects the insurance drop, and that's down 12%.
Tail wagging the dog.
And so what most of the advice has been this quarter is you need to go reshop your insurance if you can. Yep. It has been substantial for most of our agents.
Bingo. Wind mitigation
saved me personally $2,500.
We've talked about this, and this is probably a whole other meeting. Generational wealth transfer is happening. 73% of all people over 55 say they want to give all or some of their estate to their children before they die.
Yep.
So they're putting those plans into play now. Okay. We're going to just... No. Look, I looked at this, and great, 85%. All these things are stable. This is really rear-view mirror data. We can talk about this more. What do people want on a website? Detailed property info and photos, not video. I mean, this is all... God, I feel like the company that does this for NAR just like phones it in every year and calls the same exact old people because they've literally taught us nothing in a lot of years. Like this is just not changing. 2006 to 2025, and we know society's changed. We know tastes are changing. Gary's not saying that, by the way. I think this is permission for a lot of people to keep doing the same thing, and I think that's an error. I think it's not. I think it's rear view, and it's not capturing what's happening at a rapid pace. And then we're going to look back and we're going to go, oh, we don't even need websites for properties anymore. They ought to put Zillow up there. What % of you are using Zillow? And that'll just blow everything out. They're not asking the right questions, I think, is the real thing. And you and I both know it's all about the questions. What buyers want from their agent?
Yeah.
Find the right home for them.
That's stupid.
Like,
right,
no, it's not stupid. It's not stupid at all. Like, we've thought that we don't do
naturally
that
we're gonna-
anymore. We think that Zillow and Redfin does that, and that's false. They want our help.
Okay. Real quick. Wait, no. This one is important. Nope, next. Back. There we go. They care about referrals is like still that top of line how you're going to get a lot of your business, right?
Yeah.
And so are you asking previous clients for more business? They actually know and love you at 90% plus. They're going to say they're going to use you again. Of course, they would refer you again, and instead you ignore them until they call you. That's where you're likely to get a lot of your business.
And Gary Vee would tell you that is a highly disruptible thing.
Yep.
We can talk about that again later. Okay, so I thought this was an incredible family reunion, probably the best one in a long time. Here's the link to the slides.